Yeah, well, we've been doing this for a little while now, haven't we, Rivka? Podcasting, upwording.
Adding some visual.
Yes, that's part of the reason for cameras, I guess.
And 2 guests. Hello. So this being...
Upwording.
Could you say a little more about upwording, Charles? What is it?
What is upwording? Upwording, I guess, is a
Practice.
a practice. Yes, it's definitely a practice. It's a practice relating to the belief that, I think it started with you, that our everyday use of language, our habitual use of language, is littered with coercive and hierarchical expressions that are inhibiting beneficial communication. And so we looked at what are the types of words that represent that hierarchy, those coercions, and how might we use language differently, really.
And I think there's 3 things that we've got in mind, which is one, it may inhibit the communication between one another or one or many, as in it might just get stuck rather than move somewhere. The other one was around communication with oneself, where it could be very stress, guilt or anxiety inducing. And whilst there's of course always external factors that have something to do with that, we may just exacerbate it with the way we're choosing to talk to ourselves, about ourselves. And the third one, which I find really crucial, is if some of us really wishing to dismantle systems of superiority, then with it comes a whole language to look at that we might wish to let go, archive. Or sometimes I wish to incinerate it.
Compost, I think, was
Compost was the word.
That's used.
So that's back to 2016.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
9 years in.
9 years in. It started, I mean, the germination of the idea was yours, I seem to recall, and it was suddenly, I've got this idea. What do you think of? And since I'd been playing around with language, and I've talked about umbrella words and suitcase words. And an example is somebody might say diversity, for example, and we all think we know what we're talking about when we talk about diversity, until, as I put it, until you open the suitcase and realize that a bunch of people have packed different things in the suitcase. Or the other is something that's so attractive, or we feel it's so attractive as a word, that everybody wants to crowd everything that they can under the umbrella. And that gets in the way because then there's ambiguity. And so as a result of that, that's kind of where the conversation, I remember we started talking about it, and whether it was a revolution.
Or an evolution.
Or an evolution.
Evolutionizing everyday habitual language. And it's not that we're not suggesting that this is done necessarily on purpose. It's inherited, it's taught at school, it's not just yet been overhauled to maybe align with ethos, with the fresh ethos. I just wanted to say where there's the suitcase words, I think our invitation has been, rather than going, oh, I know what you mean, quietly or loud, is to go, can you say a bit more? What do you mean by? So the curiosity may bring me to being curious about who are our guests.
So what do you want to know?
Right.
What's your name? How would you like to be known? What do you do? And what brought you to Upwording?
Oh, okay. So my name's Sam, and he, him, if that's how I kind of describe myself. And I'm a writer. I write fiction, but also I work with other writers in projects, queer writers. So, and what brought me to Upwording? I think my first experience of Upwording was just seeing it in practice, like in kind of everyday interactions that I saw you, Rivka, having with people.
Okay.
So that's where, so that was kind of like I first started to see examples of it, maybe. But the interest for me is I'm very interested in how queer writing may or could be different in some ways. And I'm very much guided by a writer called Ursula Le Guin on that. And the sense, and Ursula Le Guin talks about if society is going to change, the language and some of the rules around it has to change with it. So for me, seeing some in practice, seeing some upwording practice, it's kind of stopped me in my tracks a bit and made me connect those things together.
Okay.
And so that's where my interest lies.
Love to hear a bit more in a minute about that, the different. What about you?
I'm Misk. I'm a designer and general artist. I think similar to Sam, seeing it in practice, seeing it applied to collaboration and critique was what was attractive to me, and figuring out new ways to communicate with people in ways that allows space and doesn't restrict kind of new pathways. I think I'd come from a place where maybe I did struggle to collaborate in larger groups, and then through this avenue I've been able to just have much more limitless possibilities that are truly collaborative.
Can I ask a bit more about that?
Sure. I think doing the Islington Art Academy and with all new people, I think being able to use these tools to discuss what we're going to create or what we could possibly create has been hugely beneficial and very different from how I've previously worked.
So we've got two people who've experienced upwording by, in the first instance, seeing it in action. For those who are not in that privileged position.
Yeah, we could start with the how do you not like being spoken to, which is generally what we pretty much open with. So how do you not like being spoken to? And if you're watching this,
what first comes to your mind when you think of how you would not like being spoken to?
sometimes it can really hurt when people are speaking to us in a particular way. So my guess is that what might have come up is being spoken down to or patronized.
I mean, we've done this in a few instances, and it's quite interesting the extent to which there are 4 or 5 that, regardless of where we've done it, whether we've done it in different languages, the whole thing, there are 4 or 5 common words that invariably come up. Being spoken down to is one.
Spoken down to, patronized, belittled, that's sort of the areas. Let's go for the areas first. Another one is being spoken to aggressively, or with that comes being told what to do, receiving a command or a demand or an order. Another one that comes up quite quickly is being blamed or shamed or having guilt thrown at her. You know, that was your fault. And there's quite a few: being ignored, being compared,
Being labelled.
being labelled, yeah, in a way. Don't tell me who I am or what I like or not like. And all of that is underpinned by an implication that is either really given or at least heard of stupidity or ignorance or wrongness.
And that's precisely what we meant when we said right at the beginning that we're looking at what are the words that imply, or indeed sometimes specifically state, a sense of superiority, that somehow one is in a position that's above rather than on the same level as. So inevitably, if the implication is that you are wrong or you are stupid, then someone who is greater than, in a position above you, is making that judgment, is making that decision. And that's where we talk about that whole thing of hierarchy and coercion.
So it seems that when that is subtly felt, and I think often not even consciously, that somebody's taking a superior position and is either looking down or framing us or whatever it is down, there tends to be a number of reactions, often 3. And again, check. Do you tend to find when somebody, I'm going to use the demand, when somebody tells you what to do, not asks you, not makes a request, they're giving you an order, a command, they've taken away choice or the possibility to say no, do you tend to rebel? So it's a very quite a sharp, hard, well, I'm just not going to do it now at all. I was going to do it up until now I'm not going to do it at all.
Yeah.
Or do you tend to resist? And that might mean you will do it. It'll be slower, it'll be later, you'll go, oh yeah, you can have that report by Friday, magically you'll make sure it's there on Monday or Tuesday because something unforeseen happens. Or do you tend to resign? you give up, you give in, because the consequences of not doing it or rebelling or saying no are too great. It might be around fear of the job or some kind of a reprimand or emotional withdrawal of something. So you'll know where you find. So maybe we could bring you in if that's something you've noticed.
Yeah. Something I've noticed, I think I resign, resent, and plan a rebellion. I think that's,
Oh,
I think
the other way around.
You move upwards.
I move up, yeah, I escalate, I move through the gears, but the first is quite often resign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in different circumstances, I think it is about the power dynamics.
Yes.
If I'm at home and my housemate, I'm on my way to do the dishes and my housemate tells me to do the dishes, I might not do them that day or for a couple of hours, but at work, where I feel like my whole life hangs in the balance of this person's decision, I must just resign, you know. And like Sam, you do build up resentment to that, and I think that affects how you work.
We'd say it comes at the cost, because for you, the resign, the resent, and the rebel, it will at some point erupt, it will come out, and it may not even be that person, but somebody else is going to get it in the neck. The other thing that it costs highly is on self. It really often rubs off some kind of a self-esteem, confidence, sense of. So I think that's quite a hard place. And I think the reasons are, and I'll just throw that in, it's to do with when choice is taken away or assumed that you've got to do something, there is no choice or no options to choose from. It threatens our sense of autonomy. It's a basic human need for freedom and autonomy. Also, somebody putting themselves above us, it's just upset the equality, the sense of fairness. And then, of course, the other one is safety and security. That's why often there is a resign. I will just do it. You know, it will come at a high cost. You might have noticed that even if you ask other people, tell other people rather than ask, that they might simply refuse and walk away. End of conversation. And I've noticed that's often to do with just health, well-being. I'm not even going to engage.
I think the other thing that I'd want to add there is when you were saying earlier, Sam, that you start from resign and then part of it is about build-up. That sense of resentment or whatever, and this is when Rivka said about the impact and the cost, that thing building up inside you is not healthy. And that's part of the reason that at some stage it will come out, because it can't stay there, and it does have an impact. We're aware of it because of the fact that somehow life doesn't feel quite as cozy as it did before. You're a little bit on edge, the slightest little thing and you're off. I know.
Yeah, it's sort of on the edge. And I wondered if we might actually move into, because we said upwording is to do with vocabulary, it's to do with words as manifestations of systems and concepts. So upwording also, in 2016, the idea was there is things out there. It's not new, nothing's new. We do understand that intention drives everything. I think generally that is already on sort of wide knowledge, and very much also comes from non-violent communication.
Well, something about what are the words?
Yeah, what are the words that we can just notice?
Just off the top of your, what are the words that you would notice that the ones that would represent what we've just been talking about, either being ordered or someone, you know, talking down to you? What are the words that come to mind that demonstrate or express that?
Oh, you need to do this. Must do this.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you are.
You are or it is, that goes into the identity evaluation or the behavioral evaluation. So with the you must, you need to, there was some more, and I think that's also where it relates to what you were saying, Islington Mill Art Academy, and how the space between people has been created, I think, by putting these on a coat hanger in an archive. I mean, I actually haven't really heard them around much, so I wonder if we can look into what other ones were there that are to do with orders and commands.
I mean, I think like ultimatums.
Could you put that into a sentence? An ultimatum?
if you don't do this, this will happen, or you must do this or this. You know, like that kind of be all and end all decision that you're forced to make. It removes the kind of
It's
choice.
almost a threat, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
If we don't do this, by the world's going to explode, or it's going to end up. So there is a consequence, an ultimatum, a threat. I think one of them that's used a lot and often not noticed. And I'm glad you brought up need to, because that's also a bit subtle. It's sold as, what is it that I'm looking for? It's got an urgency
essential.
around, it's like an essential.
Yeah.
And actually, often the things that are prefaced with need to aren't essential. They're desires. I don't need chocolate. I may need it if I'm diabetic and there's nothing else around, and sugar is one thing. But other than that, it's I would love some chocolate. I'm really gagging for it.
And often it's a means by which someone imposes either on themselves or on other people a degree of urgency. You need to. Takes it away
Give it
from
to me.
Yeah, it takes it away from it being something that you might get around. There's an implicit kind of it's immediate, it's urgent. We do it ourselves, you know. Oh, I need to phone my mum.
I need to go to a party. I always forget that I want to go to the party. Actually, do I want to go to the party? Or do I need to go because otherwise I'm a really bad friend?
That's it, yeah. I feel like having those conversations in my head ultimately leads me to not do the things I want to do. When I make them feel like a demand, they get bigger and bigger and I look away.
Yeah.
So you've just brought up when you have them in your head, so that's about the self-talk. Is there something about noticing that self-talk more since becoming...
Yeah, definitely. I think being able to reframe this also has helped me personally just kind of almost like trim my desires. Like I would have, you need to do all of these things, but being able to reframe it this way has helped me pick out the things that I want to do.
So what is the reframe? If we stay with the vocabulary, instead of need to, what might you...
So instead of need to, it's want to, or I'd love to. So it's like I'm looking at all these things that I've made myself feel like I have to do, and I just get to pick the things I want to. I want to be in community with people. I want to collaborate. I want to make art. These things are wants. Who I am as a person doesn't rest on the outcomes of these decisions.
That's something that somebody a few years ago in a session I ran in Berlin said, is that even with the self-talk, I feel I'm shackled by have-tos and must-dos. What about you, Sam?
Yeah, I'm still thinking about need and how the others hang off that, because for me, it's like using need separates you from your desires or what you want to do. So it actually separates you. It's like a separating. It's almost like, therefore, not holding responsibility for what it is you want to do.
Yeah, I was going to ask Misk actually, because there's an interesting thing that you said there, and I wondered, when you make that change from need to have to I want to, I'd love to, how do you feel about the task or the thing in question when you then do it?
I feel like the stakes are immediately lowered. I feel like, because these are actions of choice now, I'm just going to turn up to the studio and paint today. And, maybe I don't paint, I'll do something else, and that's fine. Whereas before, I might leave the studio thinking, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. You haven't met your kind of demand. You haven't met your quota for the day, you know?
And that's where I first saw Upwording in action, was conversations where it was there was an introduction of another option, an invitation to the individual to
I think the biggest invitation for me is putting the question mark back in when in conversation with others and with self, because just the switch of going, I've noticed myself saying I must do, I'm just going to change to for I want to, may be a lie. I may not want to. If I actually offer myself the option of going, do I want to? And maybe it's not the most exciting task, emptying the bins. I would like the bins emptied. I realise that other household members aren't there, or they have done it for quite a while, I haven't, so I might go, am I willing to? Am I prepared to finish the accounts or whatever it is, or lock up as a last person? So the question mark is really important. It moves it from the exclamation mark demand to a request to self, and a little check-in, and it's seconds. It's millisecond. Because often it's, of course I want to. And then I think you've just said it, that prefix can even drop, which is I'm going to the studio, I'm painting. I'm neither required to push myself, drag myself with need to, must to, got to, nor even go, and I really want to. I'm just doing it. I'm picking up the phone, I'm going to a meeting, and I will leave now. People have reported that it's quite a weight.
Well, it's liberating.
When we take off the rucksack.
Yeah. The whole kind of burden of have to do this, must do that. Before you know it, it becomes like a weight on your shoulders. And that freeing of, yeah, I'd rather, I want to, or as you say, I'm willing, because sometimes it is something that you, if you had a real choice, as in you could do without it altogether, as you were saying about the bins, if the bins could magically empty themselves, or it wouldn't build up to a point where you actually couldn't see the floor anymore, maybe you wouldn't.
Or find someone who loves
Or find
emptying bins.
Yeah, there is that.
The word should has just appeared as well, which we hadn't quite mentioned yet. So how does should land if you tell yourself you should do something, more exercise, less of something else? It's usually a more or less of, or how successful is that should?
I feel like it rests on almost like a future version of yourself. In my head, it's like, you should do this if you want to be that. And you're kind of dangling this carrot over your head that you can never quite reach. When you take that away, it's like if you talk about emptying the bins, doing the dishes. I might not want to actually do the activity of doing the dishes, but I want a clean kitchen. So reframing it and focus on the outcome of your actions has been quite expanding for me.
And I've noticed when we focus on I want a clean kitchen, or I'd like to get up in the morning and have the kitchen clear, the activity for me certainly is that I will enjoy the washing of the dishes a lot more than if I do it with resentment because somebody else is not doing it, or it's just got to be done.
Yeah.
I think the other thing about should for me is that there's on the face of it, it's subtle, except that it's an oppressive subtleness. It doesn't go away. And I think that should, I guess for me, the question that always comes into my mind when I do the reframing is, says who?
According to whom?
Yeah. What's the
Whose
higher
voice
power
is it?
that's determined that this should happen?
Yeah, let's stay with that for a moment. So where does it, whose voice or voices are these shoulds?
It's someone else's voice, right? There is like, it may be, you know, a societal pressure or something in your past. It may be a parent or someone who's had some kind of control in your life. Because they are often the people who tell you who you should be. I think that remains very attached to that for me.
I think if it's coming from within, it's already, it's a judgment, and it's already expressing to yourself that you've failed, because it's a should. You're not going to get there.
And it's got something that must have to, got to, need to, doesn't have, which is it carries an additional moral superiority. And so for me, the moral superiority is that there's an implication of the speaker, including the internal voice, of knowing what is right, what is wrong, which is another area of upwording, on the binaries of right, wrong, good, bad, and that somebody knows what that absolute right, wrong, good, bad, deserve, undeserve, and so on and so on, normal, abnormal is.
This might be a point to work with this, the fact that there are sometimes resistances to letting go of or composting words. Because I remember us having a quite interesting conversation when I said, there is another way that should gets used that isn't what's just been talked about, which is the conditional use. So, should that occur, I will. So you're looking at what might happen in the future, and should that happen, then I'm going to. And for me, there's a different sense within that should that doesn't have the oppressive, coercive element of the musts and needs within it.
Intention is different. Because what we would say is that whilst the words is what we are proposing to notice, it isn't about the words entirely. Yes, of course, the words are, they're the manifestations. So we can go, oh, I noticed some 20 musts today, oh, a new bunch of shirts. And I can notice them coming into a meeting, and we might together go, oh, look, the shoulds arrived. Because the point is not to start beating ourselves up going, oh God, I've done some shoulds and some musts, I'm a bad person, back to the I am frame. Just to go, wow, they've suddenly appeared, what's going on? And we'll probably notice external pressures. So going back to your should, which is the, should this happen, then we might want to consider that has a different intention. It's a question of going, what would we like in the event of the unforeseen or the potentially foreseen?
And I think that's also just when you were picking up before, Rivka, about we're not being word police. And that's part of the reason that right at the start when you asked me
I have been
what is,
I'm learning to
particularly with self, I have to admit, in my instance, it's very much more word policing as within the context of self. It's the sense that we started out by saying upwording is a practice. And if the language we use is habitual and to a certain extent almost hereditary, then just by policing words, that's not going to change things. So it's a question of first and foremost noticing and then questioning what's going on and what might be different. And so we talk about it constantly. We have peer group that meet well, perhaps not as often as we once did.
During COVID, it was every Friday. When then things open up again, Friday evening is definitely not the time that people necessarily go. But I want to take this now maybe to the Islington Mill Art Academy and give an example. So a word policing example would be that and there are sort of a core group around 10 at the moment. Sometimes it's up to 30 people in workshops. It's a 12-week stretch. It's a resurrection, or maybe not a resurrection, it's a new iteration of Islington Mill Art Academy. Just to put the context around it, I'm part of it, you are part of it, you've come to quite a few things, and it's quite porous and it's open. The difference would be is if somebody says, oh, we really need to, and then I or somebody else would go, no, we're not using the words need to. We mustn't use the need to, which is absolutely would be totally missing the point, but that would be a correction. The intention for me is then to correct and to educate, and ideally to change the way you speak. That's exactly what we're saying, check the intention. Instead, if any of us are noticing the pressure coming in, we're moving now closer to a sharing date where public will be around, and it might be, oh, you're noticing some excitement coming up, some nerves maybe, that we just go, would we like to? Do we still want to do this? How do we want to do this? So there's a little reminder that we can be in charge at all times, that we do have agency individually and together, and go, maybe not. What would happen if we don't? What would happen if we don't do it this time? You know, so that there's always a possibility of exercising conscious, considered choice making. Not to do with options. We may not have so many options available, or they might be very limited or problematic. Does that make some sense, the difference between the policing and the inviting?
Yeah.
That said, we do police occasionally.
Yeah? Say more?
It's about relationships, though, isn't it? Because there have been innumerable instances between us where one or other of us is must or need, and the other would be, oh, right, well, if you must do that, I think I need to this. Yeah. But there's a relationship that is established before you can go. And you can go into that kind of.
When we have good when we're in connection, then which sometimes is just in the eye.
Yeah.
Have you really just said that?
Yeah.
Doesn't even utter, and that's just a little hint or a reminder, and it's always done with humor. So the intention is still to connect. It's not to correct. It's inviting. Yeah, I feel like I've spoken quite a bit for a while. What are your particular any particular impacts that you've noticed in your life beyond the academy, or even within the academy, where you have noticed some shift taking place, and how has that manifested?
I think speaking really kind of more within the academy, I think there is lots of different kinds of people here from all different backgrounds. And I think being able to use these frameworks and just have them be part of the way I and a few of the other people in the academy are thinking has just allowed for pressure to be relieved. So there have been, deadlines that have appeared throughout these 12 weeks, and pressure builds, and then we might sit and have a conversation, be like, right, what do we actually want to do? And we'll just do that. And then we're able to create in a much more natural way because it's not bound to pressure. And I think I've come from, a life of I work well under pressure, and I wait till the last minute to finish a project, and I feel like that's where I do my best work. But in reality, working from a place of peace and choice and autonomy, I'm just able to do so much more of the things that I want to do. Not necessarily about productivity or my output, it's just that everything I'm working on, I want to do, and there's no other cloudiness there.
Yeah, I think a lot the same, especially around the kind of like a few things support the culture of Islington Mill Art Academy, and I think that Upwording is one of them. So that part of it for me. And in terms of I think in terms of writing, I'm relatively new to it, so I'm kind of seeing how I'm doing a lot of noticing, both in terms of like the people I'm collaborating with, but also in terms of I'm starting to look at it in terms of how it maybe plays out in certain types of writing, fiction as well. Just noticing that, and I'm not kind of like got any particular view going forward on that yet, because I think it's a longer project. But in terms of personally, in terms of practice, I think again that's I think it's like a gently building, organically building kind of like it gives me more permission.
It's interesting you talked about writing, because one of the things and one of the areas that I know that I have specifically integrated the concept of upwording and what's behind it is in my emails. I will often now read an email to see whether there are musts or needs. So it's an active thing to notice and then to determine how else might I phrase that.
And I think sometimes they aren't even necessarily visible, they're implied. Because an order can be given with an exclamation mark or even a full stop that actually is intended as an exclamation mark. It may not have must have or need to in it. It's like, do it. And I've noticed also in the emails, if there's something I want to really make sure that it arrives in a way that the person can read it, wants to read, and do something about it. So it may have something in it that could be more of a critical. I'd like our attention to go to something that I would love a little bit different, or to change in future. It's not going to work if I throw something at someone in such a way that they just close off and walk off. So I send emails to myself sometimes. It's something a friend said, send an email to yourself, open it, or send a message to yourself, because you then feel it as a receiver as to whether, whoa, you've just lost me there. Or, yeah, I'm still with it. Yeah, bit uncomfortable, I'm with it, because you're not disrespecting me. You're also interested in me. And one of the things we talk often about is when we move from being furious
to curious. I mean, we consistently talk about when we say about the practice, it's about shifting, and I think that it's really quite interesting. That's one of the ones that I particularly like, and also it's not just that I like it. It's also that whenever I've spoken about upwording to other people and used that one, it's the one that sticks, and so we're consistently saying, question what the intention is. What is it that I'm really saying? And as Rivka said, even if it doesn't have the must, the needs to, and the shoulds in, sometimes I read aloud. I read what I've written aloud. Because as soon as you do that, tone kicks in. And tone is so often that little giveaway as to what the real intention is.
So let's ask. So when you feel, do you ever have times when you feel a bit or a lot furious with something? Angry, frustrated? At that moment, if there's another person involved, what is the intention if you then choose to speak out of furious?
I think I very rarely externalize my anger. I'm much more likely to totally withdraw.
Okay.
And just I don't know, feel a weight over me and basically tap out of the conversation.
Which means there's then no conversation.
Yeah,
so it disconnects. Yeah. Okay.
Can you repeat that question again?
Yeah, I wonder what happens when we act out of curiosity. I just made up that word.
Yes.
Because there is curiosity. So
yes.
when we're not checking the intention and we have that moment of utter frustration, I'm angry with you, I'm angry about something, I'm going to address you. You address somebody. What is the intention at that moment? My guess would be to change the other person, to reprimand them, to blame them, educate them. Revenge. But basically, I want you to do something different to suit me. So I'm going to basically tell you off. You've done something wrong. There's a lot going on in there. There's the implication of wrongness. I might even say that was wrong of you to do.
And almost immediately that's happened.
I'm there, yeah. And I want you to change. And that is almost certainly going to end up in a disconnect. So whether you remove yourself because you're all taking it in, or you're letting it out, there'll be a disconnect. And that's where we're going. If we're noticing we're furious, to pause, breathe, and go, okay, what would I like my intention to be? What do I want? And you mentioned before the outcome to be. I'd like there to be change, ideally, if the other person is willing. So how am I going to approach them? And that might mean that I will then go, they'll have a reason. They'll have had a reason for doing or saying or not doing what happened. I just don't know it yet.
And that's where the curiosity kicks in. That's where you move from furious to curious, because then if the intention is to find out what's going on for them,
I may roll out the carpet of curiosity. I love that little phrase, because you can see it. Roll out the carpet of curiosity, and somebody
What
said,
colour is it?
you. It can be any colour you like, it can be multicolored, and you can sit on it, you can fly on it, and there can be many people on it. It's infinite.
that particular flying carpet hasn't quite landed with me
With
yet.
you yet. Not yet. I'm glad there isn't yet. So the shift you were talking about, Charles, before, we wouldn't ever go, you must shift when you notice a must. That again would be a bit like somebody said, oh, my mother always told me you should never say should. You know. So the invitation is, oh, I've noticed that. What is it doing? Is it giving me anxiety and stress in addition to things I may not have control over? Am I withdrawing? Is this working? I might want to do something different. So I'll check my intention and I may then shift the words. And the shift slide is about, I've now made a decision. So the words that we may use, and if we still stay with the must, have tos, need tos, got tos, should and ought tos, would be, you've mentioned the want tos, like tos, love to, can't wait to, willing to, prepared to, or just doing, will do, picking up the phone, walking. If we ask, and I think that's what we've experienced in the academy already, there is this, there is that, there is that. You've mentioned deadlines. I prefer to call them dates that I've agreed to, and we may actually rethink and unagree and go, could be later, could be earlier, do we want to do it? Could be a lot of work. And and this is not about becoming lazy. This is about what has traction and what has the passion and what can I sign up to or do within my current capacity. I may not be as healthy. I might have just gotten a cold. Something else is happening in my life, or I broke my shoulder, and therefore my capacity might be a little less. So there's a sifting going on. There is a no, not now, not yet, not alone. Yes this, yes that, yes the other. Is that the one you mean?
It's that one that leads us to the fun one, which is what happens when we liberate ourselves in that
Yeah,
way.
what does happen?
It's about time.
Do you want to say a bit more about time?
Well, by not being under that kind of pressure, we create the space to do that which we would wish to do. We're more relaxed, and we find time.
And there seems to be more breath, is what people have said.
I think more like safety and a route to be kind of vulnerable with other people, with your art. I think giving yourself, taking the weight off yourself, just allows you to go down to that space. And I personally think that's where the best outcomes come from. That's the most real version of yourself.
And somebody described it as space in time. So we've got that, and that's just one way of drawing the visual. You know, it takes something about the clock ticking off. And you mentioned something before, so about liking working under pressure. So one of the things is around moving away from. I call the workshop, I call the session SOS, stress or stretch and sprint, because the stretch, if it might be a particular time, like 3 weeks, we've now got 3 weeks before a date of the Art Academy, can be very satisfying, can be very creative. It definitely ups an energy level. Decisions are going to be made. Maybe they are made faster. They have less reflection time. There's a trust that kicks in. We trust ourselves to make a decision that is the one that we want. And then we may have a sprint at the end. The last 24 hours, the last 6 hours, and that can be highly satisfying, creatively satisfying. Usually not if there is constant stress in the lead up to it. And that's the bit that we're questioning. Because the constant stress really wears on health and well-being. It means that the arrival point is usually I'll collapse after, I'll be ill, or I go on holiday and be ill, and actually all I'm doing on holiday is then recuperate from an illness, or come back from the holiday requiring another holiday.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's like at that point, in that mode of being, you are seeking relief from the things you've agreed to do, rather than the completion or what comes after as a result of them.
Yeah.
Which seems like a perfect time.
To say that small shifts in our language, a little replacement of words, not arbitrary, with a little thought behind it, conscious, considered choice making can make quite big seismic impacts. And I wanted to ask a last question, which is what at the moment within Upwording, and we've touched on some of it, not all, for you resonates particularly most at the moment?
For me, it's the sense of noticing, both, and I mean two ways. So one, if somebody's bringing that up with me, I'm being noticed, I'm being listened to, and it's also the same going the other way. I think it's just a recognition, I think, and a recognition that you can move from that place, and somebody's actually listening to you, what you're saying.
Thank you.
I think it's just freedom in my creation, and a freedom that I'm able to very easily share with other people and have them. We work on something together, we feel free together. I think that's the most alive and exciting thing for me.
And I wanted to say also, thank you for you too, in the very, very first recording with visuals. It feels like sort of going from the podcast to adding image, because we've been having a lot of fun. There are 9 podcasts. They'll be up by the time you might see this. And I do want to say also that thank you to you too, and you, Charles, ongoingly, for how long is it now? 9 years of being part of the, what we call them, the 5 inner, the crits, which is the core reading team of the first booklet of Upwording, which I would now say there is a bigger we than just me writing it. It'll be part 1 of a number of them. Currently there's 5. I can imagine it'll be many, many more. And so thanks for that. And we have a part 2, and we might just explore a bit more, because we're going to meet 2 more people from Islington Art Academy.
Yes.
So this is a time to close for part 1?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. Time to close.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Time to
Time
close.
to space and time. Thank you, and thank you to Islington Mill. Thank you to
Thank you very much.
LGBTV who are recording. Thank you to you for engaging.